Captain Zara Chen had been drifting in the escape pod for 72 hours when the alien ship found her. The UES Defiance was gone, vaporized by plasma cannons that could melt through reinforced titanium like butter. Her crew of 43 souls had been reduced to scattered atoms in the void, and she was supposed to be dead too. But Chen was stubborn. She always had been. The rescue ship was unlike anything in the Earth fleet databases. Sleek, organic curves replaced the harsh angles of human engineering, and the hull seemed to shimmer with an oily rainbow sheen that hurt to look at directly. When the tractor beam pulled her pod into the alien vessel's bay, Chen's first thought was that she might be walking into an even worse fate than floating dead in space. The beings that greeted her were tall and willowy, with 4 arms and skin that shifted color like a mood ring. Their leader introduced himself as Research Captain Veltar of the Koranic Scientific Collective, and his English was surprisingly good, though heavily accented. "Human Chen," Veltar said, his skin rippling from blue to purple as he spoke. "You are quite far from your home system. What brings a single human ship to the outer rim?" Chen straightened despite her exhaustion. The universal translator built into her suit was working perfectly, but she could hear the condescension in the alien's tone. She had heard it before, in every diplomatic meeting between humanity and the various galactic civilizations they had encountered since achieving faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. "We were on a scientific mission," she said carefully. "Cataloging star systems in the Kepler expansion zone." Veltar's skin shifted to a pale yellow, which Chen's cultural briefings had told her indicated amusement among the Koranics. "Ah yes, the young species always wished to explore. Tell me, Captain Chen, what happened to your vessel?" The memory hit her like a physical blow. The proximity alarms screaming as massive ships dropped out of hyperspace around them. Hull plating that could withstand asteroid impacts crumpling like paper under focused energy beams. The desperate evacuation order she had given too late for anyone but herself. "We were attacked," she said. "Ships I've never seen before. They didn't respond to any communication attempts." "Attacked?" Veltar's skin darkened to deep red. "In this region? Highly unlikely. The outer rim has been peaceful for over 3 centuries. Chen felt her temper rising. The patronizing tone was getting worse. "I know what I saw. 3 massive warships, each one the size of a city. They opened fire without warning." "Captain Chen," Veltar said gently, as one might speak to a confused child, "humans have been part of galactic civilization for a very short time. Perhaps you misunderstood what you encountered. Space phenomena can often appear threatening to inexperienced species." The words hit harder than any physical blow. Chen had graduated top of her class from the Earth Fleet Academy. She had served on 6 deep space missions and commanded the Defiance for 2 years. She knew the difference between a solar flare and a plasma cannon. "With respect, Research Captain," she said through gritted teeth, "I've been commanding starships longer than some of your crew members have been alive. My ship was destroyed by hostile forces." Veltar's 4 arms made a gesture that Chen didn't recognize, but the meaning was clear enough from context. "Dismissal." "Of course, Captain. You have been through a traumatic experience. Perhaps some rest would help clarify your memories." As the Koranic medical team sedated her for what they claimed were routine health scans, Chen's last coherent thought was a burning determination to prove them wrong. Humanity might be the newest kids on the galactic block, but they were not helpless children to be patted on the head and ignored. 3 days later, as the Koranic ship approached the coordinates where the Defiance had been destroyed, Veltar was beginning to have second thoughts about his assumptions. The debris field was massive, stretching across several thousand cubic kilometers of space. Chunks of twisted metal drifted in complex orbital patterns around a central mass that had once been the human ship's main hull. But what caught Veltar's attention weren't the remains of the Defiance. It was what wasn't there. "Research Captain," his sensor operator reported, "I'm detecting trace radiation signatures consistent with heavy plasma discharge weapons." "That's impossible," Veltar replied automatically. No one has used weapons of that magnitude in this sector for centuries. Sir, the energy patterns don't match any known peaceful civilization's technology. These readings are consistent with ship-to-ship combat. Veltar studied the holographic display showing the debris analysis. The human ship had been thoroughly destroyed, but the pattern of destruction told a story. The Defiance had put up a fight. Scorch marks on the larger debris pieces showed where the human ship's weapons had found their targets. More importantly, there were trace elements in the debris that didn't belong to human technology. Scan for other metallic signatures, he ordered. What they found changed everything. Scattered throughout the debris field were fragments of an unknown alloy, something that didn't appear in any of the Quranic databases. The metallurgy was advanced, possibly more so than anything the collective had ever encountered. Whoever had attacked the human ship had technology that should have been impossible. But there was something else. The fragments weren't just from the attacking ships. Some of them showed signs of catastrophic structural failure, as if they had been torn apart from the inside. Research Captain, the sensor operator's voice was quiet now, almost awed. I'm reading signs that at least one of the attacking vessels was completely destroyed. The debris pattern suggests a massive internal explosion. Veltar felt his skin shifting through colors he couldn't control. A human ship, crewed by what the galactic community considered a primitive species, had somehow managed to destroy an enemy vessel with technology superior to their own. Where is Captain Chen? He asked. When they brought her to the bridge, Chen looked haggard but determined. She had spent the past 3 days in what amounted to comfortable imprisonment, being debriefed by researchers who treated her like a particularly interesting specimen. But when she saw the holographic display showing the debris field, her expression hardened. Now do you believe me? She asked. Veltar's skin was cycling through a rapid spectrum of colors, betraying his emotional turmoil. Captain Chen, our analysis suggests that you not only encountered hostile forces, but that you managed to destroy at least one of their vessels. This should not have been possible given the technological disparity. Chen smiled, and for the first time since her rescue, it wasn't a pleasant expression. You want to know how a primitive human ship took down something with superior technology? The question has significant implications for galactic security, Veltar admitted. The answer is simple, Chen said. You've all been at peace for so long that you've forgotten how to fight dirty. She gestured to the debris analysis. Those ships were advanced, sure. Better shields, better weapons, better everything. But they fought like engineers, not warriors. Perfect formation, textbook tactics, optimal firing solutions. They expected us to follow the same rules. What did you do? Veltar asked. We rammed them, Chen said simply. Full engine burn, right into their lead ship's shield generators. Our hull was breached in 17 places, and we lost main power, but their shields went down. Then we used our mining charges. Mining charges? We were on a scientific mission, remember? We had shaped charges for asteroid sampling. Not much good against intact shields, but against exposed hull. Chen shrugged. Physics is physics. Explosive decompression works the same way whether you're human or alien. Veltar was quiet for a long moment, processing what she had told him. Finally, he asked, who were they? The attackers? I was hoping you could tell me, Chen said. But based on what I saw, I don't think they were from around here. Their technology was too different, too advanced. And they didn't seem interested in communication or capture. They just wanted to destroy everything in their path. You believe they will return? Chen nodded grimly. Count on it. Whatever they were looking for out here, one destroyed human ship isn't going to stop them. Veltar's skin had settled into a deep, troubled blue. In 3 centuries of peaceful exploration and scientific advancement, the Quranic collective had encountered dozens of species. Some were more advanced, some less so, but all had been peaceful, rational beings interested in mutual cooperation and knowledge sharing. The idea that something hostile and technologically superior was lurking in the void beyond their borders was terrifying. But even more terrifying was the realization that if such a threat existed, the peaceful civilizations of the galaxy might not be prepared to deal with it. Except for humanity. Captain Chen, Veltar said slowly, I believe we need to contact your government. Chen raised an eyebrow. Finally ready to listen to the primitive humans? I believe, Veltar said, that humanity may possess certain skills that the rest of the galaxy has forgotten. As the Quranic ship changed course toward Earth, neither Veltar nor Chen could have predicted how dramatically their encounter would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The message they carried would force every peaceful civilization to confront an uncomfortable truth: sometimes, survival requires more than advanced technology and rational thought. Sometimes, it requires the kind of controlled savagery that humanity had never quite managed to breed out of itself. The SOS that Captain Chen had broadcast before the Defiance's destruction had been a simple distress call, a plea for rescue from a species the galaxy considered barely above primitive. But when that message finally reached Earth and the full truth of the encounter became known, it would become something else entirely. It would become the galaxy's first real warning that humanity was not to be underestimated. In the weeks that followed, as news of the attack spread through the Quranic collective and then to the broader galactic community, reactions ranged from skepticism to outright disbelief. The idea that unknown hostile forces were operating in the Outer Rim challenged everything the peaceful civilizations believed about their secure, ordered universe. But as more ships began disappearing along the galactic frontier, and as rescue teams found debris fields similar to the one where the Defiance had died, the skepticism began to turn to concern. And then to fear. The Quranic collective was the first to formally request human assistance in investigating the disappearances. They were followed by the Zenthari Republic, the Ethereal Consortium, and finally the prestigious Galactic Council itself. The message they sent to Earth was simple: we need your help. What they got in return would change everything. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as the mixed fleet of human and alien vessels dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler expansion zone. 6 months had passed since Captain Chen's rescue, and the situation in the Outer Rim had deteriorated rapidly. 17 more ships had vanished. The peaceful civilizations of the galaxy were in panic. Admiral, her communications officer reported, the Quranic vessel's scientific inquiry is requesting permission to begin scanning operations. Rodriguez nodded. Granted. But remind Research Captain Veltar that we're following human tactical protocols now. The irony wasn't lost on her. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council had barely acknowledged humanity's existence. Now they were begging Earth Fleet to take command of a joint operation that included some of the most advanced civilizations in known space. The change in attitude had begun with Chen's debriefing. When Earth Fleet's analysis of the Defiance incident reached the Galactic Council, the initial response had been the usual patronizing dismissal. Advanced hostile aliens operating in the Outer Rim? Impossible. A primitive human ship destroying superior technology? Clearly a misunderstanding. That changed when the Zenthari Seeker disappeared. The Zenthari were one of the oldest spacefaring civilizations in the galaxy, with technology so advanced that they had long since transcended the need for physical labor or warfare. Their ships were marvels of engineering, protected by energy shields that could deflect asteroid impacts and armed with defensive systems that should have made them invulnerable to any known threat. The Zenthari Seeker had been investigating the same region where the Defiance was lost. Like the human ship, it had simply vanished, leaving only a debris field and trace radiation signatures. But unlike the Defiance, the Zenthari Seeker had taken no enemies with it. Admiral, her tactical officer called out, "We're detecting multiple debris fields throughout the system." This wasn't a single engagement. Rodriguez studied the tactical display. The pattern was clear enough once you knew what to look for. The unknown hostiles weren't just attacking random ships. They were systematically clearing the region of any potential witnesses. "Sir," her sensor operator announced, "we're picking up an active contact. Bearing 27 Mark IV, distance approximately 50 million kilometers. On screen, the main display flickered, then resolved into an image that made several of the alien crew members recoil in shock. The ship was massive, easily twice the size of Rodriguez's flagship, and its design was unlike anything in the galactic databases. Organic curves mixed with mechanical precision, creating a vessel that looked more grown than built. Dark energy crackling along its hull gave it an almost alive appearance. "It's heading straight for the Koranic ship," the tactical officer reported. Rodriguez didn't hesitate. "All ships, battle stations. Move to intercept." "Admiral," came Veltar's voice over the communication channel, "our defensive systems are not designed for combat operations. We should withdraw and—" "Negative," Rodriguez cut him off. "You wanted human tactical leadership, you've got it. All vessels will maintain formation and prepare to engage." What followed was a masterclass in the difference between engineering and warfare. The hostile ship opened fire first, sending streams of plasma energy that would have vaporized any single vessel in the fleet. But Rodriguez had learned from Chen's experience. Instead of meeting the attack head-on, the human ship scattered into an apparently random formation that drew the enemy's fire while the alien vessels provided covering fire from protected positions. "Admiral," Veltar's increasingly frantic voice came through, "our sensors indicate that vessel has enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet." "Maybe," Rodriguez replied calmly, "but they can only shoot at one target at a time." She was implementing a strategy that the peaceful civilizations had never needed to develop, the use of multiple expendable units to overwhelm a superior opponent. It was a concept that required accepting losses for the greater tactical advantage, something that species who had lived in peace for centuries found almost impossible to comprehend. The hostile ship was powerful, but it was designed to fight the same way the galaxy's peaceful civilizations did, with measured, precise strikes against static targets. It wasn't prepared for human tactics. Rodriguez's ships attacked like a pack of wolves, darting in from multiple angles, striking fast, and withdrawing before the enemy could bring its superior firepower to bear. Each attack individually was almost meaningless against the hostile ship's advanced shields, but the cumulative effect was devastating. "Sir," her weapons officer reported, "their shield grid is showing fluctuations in sectors 4 and 7. Concentrate fire on those weak points," Rodriguez ordered. "All ships, coordinated strike pattern Delta." The human vessels moved with a precision that came from centuries of military tradition, targeting the exact points where the enemy's defenses were weakest. The alien ships in the fleet, following the tactical coordination from the Retribution, added their own firepower to the attack. What happened next proved Chen's earlier point about the difference between superior technology and combat experience. The hostile ship's shields failed. "Impossible," came a transmission from one of the ethereal consortium vessels. "Our analysis indicated those defensive systems were impenetrable." "Nothing's impenetrable if you know how to break it," Rodriguez replied. "All ships, target their propulsion systems. We want them crippled, not destroyed." The follow-up attack was swift and decisive. Without their shields, the hostile vessel was vulnerable to focused fire from the entire fleet. Within minutes, its engines were dead and its weapon systems had been systematically disabled. "Admiral," Veltar's voice was filled with something approaching awe, "how did you know their shields would fail?" "Because they're not invincible," Rodriguez said. "No technology is. Every system has limits, and if you push those limits hard enough and fast enough, they'll break." The boarding operation that followed revealed the true scope of the threat the galaxy was facing. The hostile ship was crewed by beings that none of the galactic civilizations had ever encountered. They were clearly not native to local space, and their technology was indeed more advanced than anything the peaceful species had developed. But they had one critical weakness: they had never faced an opponent willing to accept losses in order to achieve victory. Rodriguez's interrogation of the captured crew revealed that they called themselves the Hegemony, and they had been systematically expanding across the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Their method was simple: they would send advanced scouts to eliminate any potential resistance in a target region, then move in with colonization fleets. They had conquered dozens of star systems using this approach, but they had never encountered anything like humanity's military doctrine. "You fight like animals," one of the captured hegemony officers told Rodriguez during questioning. "No civilized species would accept the casualties you are willing to take." "Maybe that's why civilized species keep getting conquered," Rodriguez replied. The intelligence gathered from the captured ship was sobering. The hegemony had identified the galaxy's peaceful civilizations as easy targets specifically because they lacked military capability. Their advanced scouts had been operating in the outer rim for months, systematically eliminating any ships that might have detected their presence. They had planned to begin the main invasion within a year. Admiral Veltar approached her after the interrogation was complete. "The Galactic Council is requesting a full report on these findings." "They'll have it," Rodriguez said. "But first, we need to discuss something more important." "Which is?" "Defense." The conversation that followed would reshape the political structure of the galaxy. Rodriguez laid out the harsh reality. The hegemony's main fleet included thousands of ships, each one capable of destroying anything the peaceful civilizations could field in single combat. The only way to stop them would be to adopt human military doctrine on a galactic scale. That meant accepting casualties. It meant building weapons designed specifically to kill rather than to explore. It meant training peaceful scientists and researchers to become soldiers. "You're asking us to become like you," Veltar said. "I'm asking you to survive," Rodriguez replied. "The choice is yours." The response from the Galactic Council came within days of Rodriguez's report reaching the core worlds. For the first time in the galaxy's recorded history, the peaceful civilizations voted to militarize. Earth fleet was placed in command of the Joint Defense Initiative, with Rodriguez promoted to Supreme Admiral of Allied Forces. Human military advisors were assigned to every major world, and crash programs were initiated to convert civilian vessels into warships. The transformation wasn't easy. Species that had lived in peace for centuries struggled to adapt to military thinking. The concept of acceptable losses was particularly difficult for civilizations that had eliminated death from disease and accident through advanced technology. But they learned. They had to. When the hegemony's main fleet finally arrived at the edge of galactic space, they found something they had never encountered before, a unified military force commanded by a species that had never forgotten how to fight. The Battle of the Outer Rim lasted for 6 months and cost the lives of over 2 million beings. But when it was over, the hegemony fleet was broken, their expansion halted, and their survivors fleeing back to whatever distant galaxy they had come from. Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the debris field that marked the largest space battle in galactic history. Around her, the survivors of dozens of different species worked together to search for survivors and salvage what they could from the wreckage. Admiral Veltar approached, his skin shifting through colors that Rodriguez had learned to recognize as deep respect. "The Galactic Council has asked me to convey their gratitude." "For what?" "For teaching us how to survive." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Just remember the lesson. Peace is a luxury that has to be defended." The aftermath of the war brought changes that no one had anticipated. The galaxy's peaceful civilizations didn't abandon their scientific pursuits or their commitment to cooperation, but they never again made the mistake of assuming that the universe was entirely civilized. The Joint Defense Fleet remained active, patrolling the galactic borders and training new generations of soldiers from every member species. Human military doctrine became required study in every galactic academy, and the concepts of strategic thinking and tactical planning became as important as physics and engineering. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity itself. Captain Chen, the survivor of the Defiance, was awarded the Galactic Medal of Honor and promoted to Admiral in charge of border security. Her simple SOS message had become the foundation of a new galactic military doctrine. In the official records, the conflict was known as the Hegemony War. But among the troops who had fought in it, both human and alien, it was remembered by a different name. They called it the war that proved humanity was not to be underestimated. The lesson had been learned, but at a cost that the galaxy would never forget. Sometimes survival required more than advanced technology and peaceful intentions. Sometimes it required the willingness to fight with the controlled savagery that humanity had never quite managed to breed out of itself. And sometimes, that savagery was exactly what the universe needed.